Hello and welcome to another episode of how to build a dinghy in your spare room. So I'm building this 10-foot spindrift dinghy in my dining room. So luckily the dining room is 12 feet wide and 11 feet across, so I can just about get the full-size dinghy in here. But the thing about this particular dinghy is it cuts in half. It comes in two pieces. It's a nesting dinghy, so the front half unbolts from the aft half and then the front half goes inside the aft half, so it makes it a lot easier to store. So you can actually store it in a size that's only 5 feet by 4 feet. So 5 feet high by 4 feet wide and 2 feet deep. So it's probably the size of a large chest of drawers once it's nested. So it will fit in the corner of a room. So at the moment you can see it taking up most of the space here. That's because it's bolted together on the stand and I'm working on the forward and aft seats. Well, I say seats, it's basically the forward and aft tanks. Now these are buoyancy tanks. So the idea is these tanks are there to provide buoyancy if there's a capsize and the boat fills with water, so it doesn't sink, because it's made out of wood and it's got a lot of fiberglass on it, or will have, which will make it slightly heavier than water, and it will probably sink if it fills with water. So the buoyancy tanks are there to offer some buoyancy to stop it from sinking. So you can bail her out and then carry on sailing, rowing or motoring, whatever you're doing, because this boat will do all of those three. So what are we going to do today? Basically I'd like to get these tanks sealed and the tops on them. So last time I got these aft tanks filleted, so they're ready to get taped. Those fillets are ready to be taped, and then I can give them 3 coats on the inside of epoxy, which I'll do tomorrow. And then once that's dried, the next time I'll better put the seat tops on, and the tanks will be, well, close to finished. They'll still need to be sanded and rounded on the edges and then taped, the edges taped on the outside. So my plan for today is, I've got a big list of jobs. Sand the insides of the aft tanks and the forward tank, ready for the epoxying tomorrow. Then I'm going to glue on the forward tank frame, get the glass tape ready for the inside of the aft tanks, and then glue on those tapes. And then I've got a little bit of work to do on the centerboard, which is to put some supports on the top. I seem to have got a slight mix up with the wood somehow, so I seem to have plenty of this size of wood which is supposed to be for the seat supports, which go either side of the bulkhead here, and the seat will go either side of that and rest on those. So this needs to be cut and shaped, but I've got a lot of it. It should only be a foot, so I don't know why there's that much. I think there might have been a slight mistake and I should have had more of this. So I think I might have got mixed up with the sizes of these two. So this one I should have had this much, and this one I should have had this much. So yeah, I think that's what's gone wrong there. Slight problem on the delivery, but not to worry, I can make use of this the same way. So this one is going to be used for the daggerboard grip on the top, and this one's going to need a foot. So about a foot of this. So that's what, 3, 6, about that much probably, maybe a bit more. And then can I use? Oh yeah, maybe if I take the rest of it and cut it down the middle. Yeah, if I take the rest of it, cut it down the middle, I'll have 2 pieces just about spot on. Yeah. Okay, I have to do that. Great. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do today. Okay, I've just drilled out the 2 holes on the port side to be 19 mils. The idea being that I can fill these with epoxy tomorrow, and that will then, once that's dried, I'll better drill a 8mm diameter hole for the bolts to go through there, because the current situation with just using 8mm holes for the 8mm bolts would mean that the wood would be exposed to moisture, which wouldn't be ideal, and it might start to rot, and given that that's going to be a lifting point, that wouldn't be great. So I'm basically just going to do that. So I thought I'd try the first 2, see how it went, and then get the next 2 on video. So I've got so I've got a regular drill here with my 19mm bit. Just checking that's centered correctly. Yeah, we don't need to wobble, and it's bad enough as it is. So okay, let's see if this works. Okay, that's gone through. The only thing concerning me is how close these are and whether that's going to create a weakness in the bulkhead, but there's such a lot of wood behind those that I don't think that's going to be a problem at all. We've got, rather than just a 1/4 inch plywood as per design, there's actually 6 1/4 inch pieces. That's 1.5 inches in total. There's 1.5 inches of plywood that I'm drilling through here. Okay, that seems to have gone quite well, so quite pleased with that. Just need to sand down now those around the entry. And same on the other side. so apart from hoovering up and wiping that down, that forward tank's done from a sanding point of view, so I'm going to move on to the aft tanks now. Okay, so here I'm now starting to prepare the aft tanks for the next stage. So I'm sanding down the panels, I'm sanding down the insides, I'm sanding down the frames, I'm sanding down the fillets, because the next stages are going to involve many phases, one of which will be taping up the fillets with fiberglass tape and epoxy, and then painting the inside of the tanks with 3 coats of epoxy, and then finally putting glue on to the lid and the frame sides, or the top of the frame, and gluing on the lids. So there's quite a few different things going on really here, and including all the sanding down inside and out. So using the machine there to sand down the fillets as well as using sandpaper, trying to get the face nice and flat and smooth as well, so any blobs of epoxy that have fallen onto the face while I've been gluing the frames in, those have to be sanded down so it's all nice and flat. And of course got to get the hoover out and the brush, get it all swept and cleaned up. Plus another little job to do, which was just cutting the finger grips for the top of the dagger board. So those are just very small pieces of wood, but they also need to have a little indentation sanded onto them so that the fingers can grip it nicely, so that instead of having just 2 rectangular pieces, one of the edges of the rectangular side is sanded off to make like a little recess for the fingers to hold it. Just makes it a little bit easier and nicer to lift up. And then also I'm sanding the forward tank. I think now I'm now just gone through with a damp cloth to make sure there's no dust, and there I'm cutting the tapes. Tapes are all cut. Now I'm starting to look at the tank frame, so the side pieces that go on the bulkhead, so they're all cut as well. I start mixing some epoxy. So this looks like I've got some epoxy there thickened with some silica, and that is now being used to create on the inside of the tanks. So I've got the edges between the tank side and the hull, because if it's a right angle you can't really put tape on it. So the first thing you need to do is to put a fillet on there. And now I'm gluing the forward tank in place. So I'm mixing some more epoxy. Oh, look, tapes in the tanks here. Yeah, I'm putting the tapes into the tank. So I'm painting the tank with epoxy, putting out the tape, and then putting the tape in. The tanks are now all taped up. And on the stringers for the forward tank, making sure the centerpiece can still fit. Don't want to glue those, then have to cut a piece. So make sure that they're glued in the right place. Putting some fillets on the edging, and the sides as well.